ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पतान् शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनं श्रीमहागणाधिपतये नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। Om. Dear friends, we have just completed this 12th shloka of the 4th adhyaya, that is Kanshantah Karmanam Siddhim Yajantaiha Devataha. That shloka we have completed, where Shankaracharya, the Lord Krishna, was saying that in whatever manner you worship me, I respond to you in that manner. In whatever manner or with whatever desire people worship me, I respond to them in the same fashion. You can worship me in any form, anywhere, and with whatever reason. So whatever you want, accordingly I respond. So that is what he was saying. And there is a word called Manushe Loke, Shipram hi Manushe Loke Siddhir Bhavati Karmaja. So what is the significance of that Manushe Loke? So Shankaracharya was explaining that it is this Manushya Loka which is the Karma Bhumi, where Manushya, a human being, is having karma adhikara, that is, he is having that ability also, he is having that ability and eligibility to do karma, whatever karma he wants to do. He has a choice, he has a choice to do a particular karma, and then he has a choice to create his own destiny. So that is what he was saying. And then we have completed that shloka. We have to read the avatarika for this 13th shloka. 13th, let us read this avatarika. Manushe eva loke वर्णाश्रमादि कर्माधिकारः न अन्येषु लोकेषु इति नियमः किं निमित्तः इति अथवा वर्णाश्रमादि प्रविभागोपेत मनुष्याः मम वर्त्म अनुवर्तन्ते सर्वशः इत्युक्तं कस्मात् पुनः कारणात् नियमेन तवैव वर्त्म अनुवर्तन्ते न अन्यस्य इत्युच्यते. So anyway, Shankaracharya is looking at this shloka from 2 points of view. That is, one is Manushe eva loke varnashramadi karmadhikaraha. That is, this varna, this division of varna and ashrama, it is there in Manushe, in this Manushya loka. Why? And why is it so? Manushe eva loke varnashramadi karmadhikaraha na anyeshu lokeshu iti niyamah kim nimittah. Why is there that restriction? Why is there that niyama, or say some prescription that this karmadhikara, this sort of division of karma is there, say depending on varna and depending on ashrama, only in this Manushya loka and not in any other loka. So that is one possibility. That is one question which Shankaracharya is putting. Athava, otherwise, varnashramadi pravibhagopeta manushyaha, the people who have been say categorized as belonging to one particular varna, as belonging to one particular ashrama. Why do these people, they follow your path only? Mama vartma anuvartante. Why do these people follow your path only and not anybody else's path? So these two options. One is, why this division is there, this categorization of varna and ashrama division is there only in this say human world, in this human level rather. Manushya loke means human level. And then, or the second option is, why these people who have been divided into these categories, why are they following your path only and not anybody else's path? So these two points of view, Shankaracharya is looking at it. Manushe eva loke, that is, in this human, at this human level, varnashramadi karmadhikaraha. This adhikara means that eligibility or qualification to do a particular karma, that is depending on the particular varna and a particular ashrama. Then, na anyeshu lokeshu, it is not there in other levels. It is not there either in, say, the higher lokas called Swarga, etc., or in the lower lokas called Naraka, etc. There are different types of Naraka. There are different types of, say, superior lokas. There are different types of that inferior lokas. Then na anyeshu lokeshu iti niyamah kim nimitta, that is what for, athava or else. Varnashramadi pravibhaga upeta manushyaha, the people who have been divided into these categories. Mama vartma anuvartante, that is they follow me, they follow my path. Na anyeshu sarvata ityuktam kasmat karanat niyamena tavaiva vartma anuvartante. For what reason do they follow your path only and nobody else's? So this is the avatarika. That is Shankaracharya looking at this shloka from 2 points of view. So let us read this shloka. Chaturvarnyam maya srushtam srushtam gunakarma vibhagashaha tasya kartaramaphi mam vidya kartaramavyayam. So he says, Chaturvarnyam maya srushtam. This fourfold categorization of people into four, that is into varnas, that is Brahmana is one varna, Kshatriya one varna, Vaishya one varna, and Shudra is one varna. The four categories, collectively they are called Chaturvarnyam. Chaturvarnyam maya srushtam. Maya means by me. Chaturvarnyam is the collection of these four varnas. Maya by me. Srushtam. Srushtam means it is created. Then from how? Guna karma vibhagashaha. There is what is called guna vibhaga and karma vibhaga. First of all, you see what is the guna of a particular person. That is, we know that there are three gunas in this Maya. Maya constitutes three gunas, that is sattva, rajas and tamas. And by various combinations of this sattva, rajas and tamas, we are seeing such a great diversity in the universe. All this diversity in this universe is only because of this combination of these three gunas in different proportions. If these three gunas were not there, and then if there is only one particular thing called Maya without any constituents, there would not have been so much of variation. So because of the different proportions, mixing up of these three gunas in different proportions, we are seeing such great diversity. We are seeing somebody who is very quiet and then very contented and happy. One type is there among human beings when we talk of human beings. And then there is another nature which is rather aggressive and then dominant and things like that. There is another nature which wants to acquire and then who wants to hold and things like that. There is another nature who are slightly lazy and then who just obey orders and that type. So different types of people are seen among the human beings. Similarly, in all animal kingdom and then in all this plant kingdom and all things, even animate and inanimate, all things, we find these qualities. We find manifestation of these qualities. A particular type of food generates in you a particular type of quality. So that is why we say, yad annam tad buddhi, whatever annam we eat, that is the type of buddhi you get. So like that. So this guna karma vibhagashaha, this vibhaga is made according to the guna, because the gunas which are manifesting in a particular person, they determine the varna of that particular person. Guna vibhagashaha. And for that varna, there is a karma vibhaga. You are suitable for this type of karma. A person who is who is very quiet, pious, righteous and that type of man, okay, your job is to think about the society, your job is to do, you are called, a particular name is given. For example, the Brahmana is a particular name is given. So for him, certain duties are prescribed. For example, Agnihotraadikam Traivarnikasyaiva. Agnihotram is there. Agnihotra is, a Brahmin is supposed to do that Agnihotram every day. And this Agnihotram is not only for Brahmin, Agnihotraadikam Traivarnikasya, for all the three categories, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, for all the three categories, this Agnihotram is there. What is exclusive for Brahmana is Adhyapanam. Adhyapanam means teaching. The other people, they also do all these rituals, but for this man, there is what is called Swadhyaya and Swadhyaya Pravachanabhyam na pramaditavyam. That is what Shruti says. Swadhyaya and Pravachana. Pravachana is teaching. He is not only supposed to study, he is also supposed to see that people implement it and then properly implement it. That is called Pravachana. So that is the exclusive duty of that man. Then the exclusive duty of a Kshatriya is to protect people and all that. For him, there are certain rituals like Rajasuyadikam Rajnyaha eva. Rajasuya. We know this thing called Rajasuya. That is, they perform one yajna where they invite all these kings, all these princes and say people like that. And then there is a question of deciding as to who is the most powerful person. So there's some sort of election, probably it was there in olden days. Rajasuya is different from Ashwamedha. Ashwamedha, they leave a horse, and then as long as the horse goes, he claims the territory. So like that, that's a different one. But then Rajasuya is a slightly different one. Both these yagas you find in Mahabharata and many other texts also. Mahabharata, there is an Ashwamedha Parva, and then Rajasuya is done in the beginning itself, not in the Udyoga Parva, somewhere prior to that. So that is where we see these various yagas and things like that. So that Rajasuya yaga is something which is exclusive for a Kshatriya, and for a Vaishya, this acquisition of wealth and then building up of property. So that is something trade and commerce. So that has been his duty. And sevadikam. Seva means just obeying orders and then implementing orders. So that has been the duty of somebody who is lacking initiative, somebody who lacks initiative. In our own offices we say so and so is he is full of initiative, so and so lacks initiative. We give such confidential notes about the performance of such people. So like that, this is a type of performance indicator where a person who is capable of thinking, he is put in a different category. A person who is doing something else is put in another different category. A person who is dominating and then a person who is trying to control other people, he is put in a different category. So this is what we see, this vibhaga, karma vibhaga is there. There is an identification of guna, and then depending on the guna there is a karma vibhaga. Guna vibhagashaha, karma vibhagashaha. It has to be divided like that, guna karma vibhagashaha. And then this vibhaga, there are certain common duties, what is called sadharana dharma, as I said. Sadharana dharma is certain things which are common to everybody. For all the four varnas, there are certain common things, satyam, danam, so things like that. You have to be truthful, you should be courteous to people, then you should follow some ahimsa. There are certain things which are common to all people, and exclusive to some a particular category is something else. So that is how we have to see sadharana dharma and vishesha dharma. Then tasya kartaram api mam vidhi akartaram avyayam. Tasya kartaram api mam vidhi. Mam vidhi means you know that I am that what? Tasya karta. That is I, it is me, it is I who have created this particular system. I means he is talking, whenever Krishna is talking, saying I, he is talking at the level of Brahman. But at the same time, Brahman, we know that Brahma is the Shuddha Brahma, or at least the supreme reality. It has nothing to do with this thing. So at a lower level, he is talking at the level of a Maya Visishta Chaitanyam. At the level of an Ishvara, he is saying, at this level, at all this Maya level, I have created all these things. Tasya kartaram apimam vidhi means you know that I am the doer, I am the creator, or I am the originator of this particular system. Then mam vidhi means you know. Then mam vidhi akartaram avyayam. I am that avyaya. He is again reminding that I am that avyaya. I am that imperishable, or something which does not undergo any modification. Vyayam we know. Vyayam is something which spends itself. So or changes. So this is something, this Shuddha Chaitanya or Supreme Reality is something which does not change. But at the same time, there is some appearance in that avyaya, and there is some appearance in that akarta. Shuddha Chaitanya is number one akarta and abhokta. That is, it has no activity of its own. Then it is avyaya, and also it is called nitya, shuddha, buddha, and all those adjectives are there for that. But then at the same time, this Maya Visishta Chaitanyam, this Chaitanyam which is associated with that Maya, which we call Ishvara, or which we call Creator, or which we call this empirical God, at that level, this sort of division, this sort of creation is taking place. So that is what is the meaning of the shloka. Words are also simple. Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagashaha Tasya Kartaram api mam. Kartaram mam vidhi. Kartaram is Dvitiya vibhakti. Tasya Kartaram api mam vidhi akartaram avyayam. So these gunas, we know that these three gunas, they have produced these personality types. These personality types I have explained. That is one, these three types of, say, the Sattva Guna, Rajoguna and Tamoguna. And what are these different proportions? Shankaracharya is going to say what it is. Because this is a rather, we should say it is a rather uncomfortable shloka to explain. I will come to that once we go through the commentary. Because once we go through the Bhashyam, it is rather uncomfortable shloka in the sense that this is a shloka which has been challenged by everybody. And this is a shloka we have to interpret it as per the text, and then as per what is there in maybe Purusha Suktam. There is a reference to Purusha Suktam in this. There is a reference to some other things. So we have to see what Purusha Sukta, that is what Veda says. So we have to see what exactly is there in the books and how over a period of time some change has taken place, and then what is the original meaning of these things and what has been the change over a period of time, that we have to see. Let us read this Bhashyam. Chaturvarnyam Chatvara eva Varnaha Chaturvarnyam Maya Ishwarena Srustam Utpaditam. Okay. Maya Ishwarena. That is, by me who am the Lord of all. By me who am the Lord of all means it is not the Shuddha Chaitanyam, of course, which is creating all this. That Maya Vachinam Chaitanyam, at that level, this thing is created. Srustam. Who, what is it? Chatvara eva Varnaha Chaturvarnyam. These four Varnas, it is called collectively, they are collectively called Chaturvarnyam. This system of fourfold division. Maya Srustam Utpaditam. Next, Brahmanosya Mukhamasit Ityadi Shrutehe. So we know this is what is called the Purusha Sukta, from the Purusha Sukta. We know that there is one Suktam called Purusha Suktam, that is in Rigveda. Rigveda, that is in the 10th mandala. Rigveda, there are 10 portions. Each portion is called a mandala. And in the last portion of the Rigveda, that is the 10th mandala, this is 90th Sukta. 10th mandala, 10-90, you can see, note. This 10th mandala, 90th Sukta, you find this Brahmano Syamukha. We know whenever you go to the temple, this whole Purusha Sukta is recited. Starting from Sahasra Shirsha Purusha, Sahasraksha, Sahasrapat, so like that it starts. And then this shloka says Brahmano mantra. This mantra says Brahmano Syamukha Masit Bahura Janyah Krutaha Uru Tadasya Edvaishyah Padbhyagam Shudro Ajayata. So that is what it says. So I will read out this whole thing and also read what Vidyaranya Muni writes, and what is the context of this Sukta. This Purusha Sukta, it talks about the cosmic being. Purusha means Purishayanat Purusha. We have seen that definition. Purishayanat means one who pervades all things, one who indwells in all things. Puri means in the town. Puram is town. What is town? The body itself is the town, the dwelling place. Puram is a dwelling place. Purishayanat Purusha means one who stays, one who is there in the body, that is in all beings, one who pervades all beings is called Purusha. Then for all these individual beings, what we call Vyashti or individual, if we visualize one Samashti, that is one cosmic being, at a cosmic level if you visualize, for that body, for that being also, there is what is called a subtle body, there is what is called a gross body. So this subtle body, we have seen that Hiranyagarbha, we have seen in some other earlier context, and also we have seen in that say Ishavasya Upanishad. Then there is a gross body for all this universe. So that gross body itself is called, say, this Virat Purusha. This gross Sthula Sharira is called Virat Purusha at the cosmic level. At the cosmic level, the Sushma Sharira is called Hiranyagarbha. So the Bhashyam of Sri Sage Vidyaranya, I will read out one or two lines. Sarva prani samashti rupo brahmanda deho viradakhyah yah purushaha soyam sahasra shirsha. The mantra starts, we know all that mantra, Sahasra Shirsha Purushaha, Sahasraksha Sahasrapat, that is the person who is having 1,000 heads, then Sahasraksha, 1,000 eyes, then 1,000 legs, so like that. So a child will wonder why this man is having only 1,000 heads and then only 1,000 eyes. That means each head is having only one eye, and then for each person there is only one leg. It's not like that. Sahasra means Ananta. So that is what it is clarified. That's what we have to see. Sarva prani samashti rupaha brahmanda deha viradakya. So that means this Virat is something which encompasses all our bodies. Sarva prani samashti rupa. For all these pranis, sarva pranis, for all the beings, this samashti rupa, that collective rupa, the whole cosmic rupa is what is called that Purusha. Then Yah Purusha soyam sahasra shirsha. So that man we call him Sahasra Shirsha. Sarva prani, it is the whole human population is not Sahasra Shirsha. It is maybe 6 billion or something more. So 6 billion Shirsha we have to say now. So Sahasra Shabdasya Upalakshanatvad Anantaihi Shirobhihi Yuktaha. That is, Anantaihi Shirobhihi means innumerable, infinite number of heads. Ananta means infinite. We know that word Ananta. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Ananta means infinite. Infinite heads. So that means wherever you find that intelligence, wherever there is a manifestation of intelligence in any being, so that is the part and parcel of this Samashti Purusha, this Samashti Purusha, whatever Vyashti is there is a collective thing. This Samashti Purusha encompasses all those beings. So that is what it says. Sarva praninam shiramsi tani sarvani taddehanta pati tattvat. So that is, all the heads of all things, they are covered in this particular line. So that is what he says. So I will leave at that. Then what is this Virat? Virat, the meaning given by Sri Vidyaranya is Vividhani Rajante Vastuni iti Virat. Vividhani Vastuni Rajante atra. This Vishwam or universe is having so many things, so many diverse things. So Vividhani Vastuni Santi Tatra. Vividhani Vastuni means there are so many innumerable things. And then there is so much of variety, there is so much of diversity. So that is why it is called Virat. Vividhani Rajante. So many things are shining, so many things are appearing. So that is why it is called Virat. The meaning of Virat is, it is a collection of so many things. So that is why it is called Virat. Then coming to this particular mantra, Brahmanosya Mukhamasit Bahurajanyah Krutaha, this mantra particularly says, this when you visualize that cosmic being, for any human being there is what is called a head. There is something energy that we call, there is an energy in the body. There is some other thing in the body which is called collecting things and then say developing this body. There is another aspect which makes this body work, and toil and then do all that. So this element of thinking, what we call head, this element of thinking what we call is head. Then there is an element of Shakti. It is in our Prana Shakti. It is in our lung power. And then our lung power, we use it with our shoulders and hands. So that is why this shoulders, they represent this Prana Shakti. Then there is another power which collects and then digests all things and then which which supports this whole system. So that in this this mantra says Uru Tadasya Advaishya, the thigh portion, that is called the support strength, that is giving support to the whole body. Then Padhyam, feet, that is the thing which moves around and then which does all the activities. So if you visualize the whole cosmic being in a human form, so you can visualize there are 4 components in that. One is some intelligence, there is an energy in that. There is something which is collecting everything and then collecting things every day and then developing the system. You see, by various indriyas, you acquire so many things. All these indriyas, they see things and then we go after these indriyarthas, we go after these vishayas. And then these indriyas, they are collecting various things to the body. And then this rasanendriya collects some juice. Then another rasanendriya also collects some food. Then some other indriya collects something else. So this deha is what? Deha upachaya. It is only a collection. It is only a collection of various things. It is a storehouse of so many things. And then in this storehouse there is a thinking power, there is an energy, and then there is a collecting capacity, and there is also some utility. It also does some functions. So by these functions, so this thing is the human being, the Virat Purusha, the cosmic being also can be visualized in this particular form. So if you visualize like that, and then if you see what are the gunas which have gone into that, this guna of thinking and then this guna of directing something, this guna of visualizing and directing, that is called, we call it Brahmana. Brahmana, that is something. Brahma is what? Brahma is Vedam. Brahma means knowledge, thinking. So from that point of view, whatever is that thinking component in that body, the shoulder does not think, the thigh does not think, it is only the mind which thinks. So the thinking component is what is called the Brahmana, because Brahma means Veda, Veda also means, Veda means knowledge. So because of that, it is called Brahmana. Brahmanosya mukham asit. So this mantra is interpreted in, in a traditional, by the traditional scholars it is interpreted like that. What? From this Virat Purusha's head, Brahmana emerged. That is what we normally listen. Why the normal explanation is, this Brahmana has emerged from the head of that human, that Virat Purusha. Bahu Rajanyah Krutaha. That is, from that Bahu, shoulders, the Kshatriya has emerged. Uru Tadasya Yadvaishyaha. That is, from the thigh, Vaishya has emerged. Padbhyagam Shudro Ajayata. From the feet, the Shudra emerged. So that is what they say. But that word emerged is not there in this mantra. Brahmanaha asya mukham asit. If you know, go to any Sanskrit scholar, he will say, even here, this Vidyaranya Bhashyam, it also says like this. Idanim purvokta prashnanam uttarani darshayati. Asya prajapatehe brahmanaha brahmanatvajati vishishta purushaha mukham asit. Mukham asit means he was, he became. He became mukham asit, which means Brahmana became the figure, the face. Brahmana became the mouthpiece, let us say, or Brahmana became the head or the mouthpiece of that Virat Purusha. So that is for the whole collective. You say, if you see the whole universe, the thinking being is the person who is supposed to be the mouthpiece of the entire society. So he Brahmanaha asya mukham asit. Mukhad utpannaha ityarthaha. That is what he says. That is, he has come out of that mukha. So he being a traditionalist, he being a highly traditional Vidyaranya, naturally he was interpreting from the 16th century point of view. So he interpreted like this. So but then there are very many, what the language actually means, and then the modern interpreters, what they say is, they go as per the text. If you just go as per the text, it says, Brahmana became the head. Brahmanaha asya mukham asit. Brahmana became the head. Bahu. Bahu means the two shoulders. Bahu, 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 bahavahagat. Bahu is dvivachana. That is dual number. Bahu Rajanyah Krutaha. The shoulders, they became king. They became the Kshatriya. Rajanyah means Kshatriya. Uru Tadasya Yadvaishyaha. The Uru, the thighs, Uru became the Vaishya. Vaishya is because Uru is the place where you take a child, keep on your lap, and then you feed the child. So you can imagine like that. So that is why Uru is supposed to be the supporting system for the human body. Then Padbhyagam Shudro Ajayata. This word Ajayata comes in the end. This word, this particular portion, Padbhyam Shudra Ajayata, it means, grammatically also it means, by virtue of the feet, he became the Shudra. By virtue of the feet, he became the Shudra. That is, Shudra means, that is that component or that aspect of a human being which is engaged in menial work. That aspect of a human being which engaged in moving around here and there and then doing all types of menial work. So this is how, this is the interpretation given by the modern scholars, and it is according to the text only. Brahmana asya mukhamasit. It means two things. Brahmin became the head. That is one meaning. Then the traditional meaning which is derived from it is Brahmana came out of the face. Brahmana came out of the head. It need not mean like that, because in those traditional scholars, they might have thought like that. But it actually means Brahmana became the head, that is, he became the mouthpiece. Then Kshatriya, he constituted the shoulder. So if we totally visualize that cosmic being, or if we imagine any human society, in any human society, if you see, there is a small percentage of thinking people. That is a small intellectual minority. This intellectual minority is what guides the majority. This intellectual minority, they are the people who guide the king also. The king symbolizes the Kshatriya power. We have seen in this first shloka itself, Brahma Kshatriya Paripalite Jagat Paripalayitu Malam. In order to see that there is a social order, you have to see two things. That is Brahma, that is Dharma, that is order in society. That say the moral aspect, the moral say cohesion in society. That moral cohesion is required. And then the kingly power, the royal power is required. Only moral cohesion, okay, it may survive for some time, but then if there is any external pressure, it may not be able to survive. Along with the moral pressure, moral cohesion, there is a need also for the state power, what is called Kshatriya Dharma. So Brahma, Kshatriya, Paripalite, these two have to be combined. And those were the people who were called Rajarshis, the philosopher kings or the saintly kings. So that is what we saw. Rajarshayaha, they were a fusion or a combination of this, Vaidika, this Veda and also this Kshatriya Dharma. This Dharma, the Brahma and Kshatriya, this Veda and Kshatriya Dharma, both were fused into them. So that is what we saw. Then here in this particular mantra, Brahmanosya Mukhamasit Bahu Rajanyah Krutaha, we can understand in this manner also. Because we have to see, say, the human society, and then if we interpret in that 16th century manner, we have to see how much of, say, how many problems this Indian society has faced because of this interpretation. And then we have, I also would like to quote one or two lines from some other places. For example, we know this Manusmriti. Manusmriti, in fact, he says, this is from the second Adhyaya, 148th shloka. Second Adhyaya, 2-148, Manusmriti. It says, Acharyastvasya yam jatim vidhivat vedaparagaha. So I'll read and explain also. Acharyaha tu asya yam jatim vidhivat vedaparagaha utpadayati savitriya sa satya sa ajara mara. He says, suppose you take a student to a teacher. You take a student to a teacher. Then the teacher examines him. So the teacher examines him. Then yam jatim vidhivat vedaparagaha utpadayati. So this Veda Paragaha, that is one who is an expert in the Vedas, Veda Paragaha, one who is an expert in the Vedas, and such an Acharya, Asya Yam Jatim Utpadayati. Yam Jatim Utpadayati means whatever Jati or whatever Varna he decides. So that is his division. So in fact, I was telling earlier also about, say, some examples of one Rishi who is having some 4 or 5 children. And then this Rishi decides, depending on this particular man's aptitude, depending on this particular person's guna, then he decides as to which man is a Brahmana, which man is a Kshatriya, which man is a Vaishya, which man is a Shudra. So that is why here in this Manusmriti he says 2-148, Acharyastvasya yam jatim vidhivad vedaparagaha utpadayati savitriya sa satya sa ajara mara. So that is his real caste, that is his real varna. So that is what he says. Then there is in the same Gita Bhashya also, this Nilakantha Vyakhya is there. Nilakantha Vyakhya is there in the 18th Adhyaya also for the similar shlokas, in the similar context. Then there he says, he quotes from the same Mahabharata. Mahabharata, there is one episode called Nahusha Upakhyanam. Nahusha was some legendary king who became Indra for some period of time. Then again he was cursed by all these rishis and he became a huge, huge serpent. That serpent, huge serpent, what do you call? Something like an anaconda. What do you call that? Konda Silova, what do we call that? A huge serpent. Okay, that's something like an anaconda. Then Python, sorry, that word didn't occur. That Python, a huge python. He became a huge python, and then the curse was that whoever answers your questions correctly, till somebody answers your questions, you will remain as a python. And then you have to keep on questioning that, the people, whoever is caught by you. And then if the fellow does not answer your questions, you will swallow. So that is it. So then it so happens that in the Vanaparva, Pandavas, they go there, and then this huge python catches hold of Bhima. So Bhima is a very powerful man, but still in spite of all that, Bhima is not able to extricate himself. And then this Sarpa was about to swallow that Bhima. At that time, Dharmaraja goes and then sees and questions him, what is this? Then that Nahusha, he puts certain questions to him. And then one of the questions was about who is a Brahmana. So in Mahabharata, there are certain episodes which actually question what are all the questions which we are putting in our society today. They were also put during Mahabharata time. Mahabharata time, there was a great discussion on who is a Brahmin and who is not a Brahmin. So that entire thing, Nilakantha actually quotes here again. So he says, where is this Nilakantha Vyakhya? Okay, here, Satyam Danam Kshama Sheelam Anrushamsyam Tapo Gruna Drishyante Yatra Nagendra Sa Brahmana iti Smrutaha. So a person can be called a Brahmin where if he is having the qualities like this Satyam, truthfulness, Danam. Danam is, he is not an acquisitive type of fellow, he is a person who he is willing to give away to people. Danam means not that he is having 100 rupees and gives 1 rupee. Danam, in fact, where there are various instances of this Danam. Whatever little he has, even some little food he has, he gives away. There are certain cases like that. There are some case studies, let us say, in Mahabharata. Danam does not mean that you are having 1 lakh rupees and give some little bit of it to somebody. It's not that. Danam is giving away your everything. Satyam, Danam, Kshama. Kshama is total abdication of all violence. And then whatever insult the other man gives to you, you will be you will just treat it as something, because you are in that Brahma Bhava. A person who is in that Brahma Bhava, Brahmatma Bhava, then he will not bother for whatever the other man says. He will treat it as some ignorant rant. So he will keep quiet. Then Sheelam means strength of character. Then Anrushamsyam. Anrushamsyam is that ahimsa. Tapaha, that the character to do this tapas. Character means the tendency to the practice of tapas. Then gruna is compassion. So nairghrunyam, we saw one word in the last class. Nairghrunyam is having lack of compassion is nairghrunyam. Then gruna is that compassion. Then Drishyante Yatra Nagendra Sa Brahmana iti Smrutaha. So a Brahmin is one where all these qualities are there. Then this is the answer of Dharmaraja. This is the answer of Dharmaraja to that huge python. Then the next shloka also says, Yatraital Lakshate Sarpa Vruttam Sa Brahmana Smrutaha. Wherever this thing is seen, these qualities are seen, he is called a Brahmin. Yatraitam na bhavet sarpa tam shudramiti nirdishet. Where these things are not available, where these qualities are not seen, you treat him as a Shudra. Tam Shudramiti nirdishet. So that is what Mahabharata says, not only in this context, there are some other contexts also. For example, that Yaksha Prashna is another context. Then another context is about that meat seller. There is a meat seller called Dharma Vyadha. So in that episode, there are some such episodes. Then again in Shanti Parva, in Anushasana Parva, there are any number of episodes which say that these are the characteristics, these are the gunas which decide a particular man's varna and not mere birth. So that is what he says. Then we also know that it is Shankaracharya, the great Shankaracharya. He is the man who said, Brahmaiva hamidam Jagaccha Sakalam Chinmatra Vistaritam. We know that story of Shankaracharya, where Shankaracharya, he was moving around in Kashi, where the story is that Lord Shankara himself came in the shape of a Chandala. Whether Lord Shiva himself came in the shape of Chandala or whether really Shankaracharya encountered one Chandala, we do not know. Chandala is not exactly Shudra. Chandala is somebody who was treated by society as a totally untouchable person. Chandala, strictly speaking, by the Manusmriti, a Brahmana woman where if she marries a Shudra, or if they have some relation, a Brahmana woman and a Shudra man, if they produce a child, he is called a Chandala, he is called untouchable. It is not, Chandala is not something else. Chandala, there is a half Brahmin in that. If you see Manusmriti, Manusmriti says Chandala and untouchable is one who is born of a Brahmin woman and a Shudra man. So that is what this Manusmriti says. So that Chandala, he came across Shankaracharya. Then he says Apasara, whether Shankaracharya said or his students said, we do not know. Now also we go to say Swamiji's place, and then the Swamiji's disciples, they do a lot of hangama. Swami himself keeps quiet, but then disciples, they push us aside. So something like that happened. Then they said Apasara, Apasara. Apasara means just move aside, move aside. Then he puts a question. Swami, you are a great renowned realized person. You are a Brahmagyani. Then what are you saying, Apasara? Are you asking my physical body to go move away, or are you asking my Chaitanya Swarupa to move away? So then this man realizes, and then he feels rather bad. He feels rather embarrassed. And then he says, Chandalostu satu dvijostu guru rityesha manisha mama. A person who is having this Brahmagyana, Brahmaivahamidam jagacha sakalam chinmatra vistaritam. There is a famous shloka there. There he said 5 shlokas in that context. Those 5 shlokas, they have been commented upon by various writers. That 5 shlokas, they are called Manisha Panchakam. Manisha means that is my considered view. That is my Manisha. Esha Manisha Mama means this is my considered view. This is my valued judgment, let me say. Valued view or valued judgment. That is Manisha. That is called Manisha Panchakam. Then in this Manisha Panchakam he says, the person who realizes that he is the Brahman, Jagacha Sakalam Chanmatra Vistaritam, all this is a manifestation of this intelligence only. Sarvam Chaitad Avidyaya Trigunaya Seshammaya Kalpitam. So a person who is in that state of mind, all this is a creation of Maya. Seshammaya Kalpitam, including Isha. Isha is something, the concept of God again is something which is a construct of my mind. So Vedanta goes to that level. Seshammaya Kalpitam, Ittham Yasya Drudha Matihi. Sukhatare Satve Pare Nirmale Chandalostu Satu Dvijostu Guru Rityesha Manisha Mama. So that is what Shankaracharya says. So we have got any number of examples of other, other gurus. For example, Ramanuja. Ramanuja was the one who at a time when there was a lot of this problem about this untouchability in Tamil Nadu. And then this Tirumantra is Om Namo Narayanaya. That Tirumantra was not supposed to be told in the presence of a Shudra, or in the presence of, not exactly Shudra, in the presence of the so-called untouchable, Chandala. So he got on to that temple roof. He went on to that temple roof, and then he loudly proclaimed that Tirumantra. He called all the people. And then loudly proclaimed Tirumantra. Yes, this is the Tirumantra. You please recite. Then his answer, when all these very traditional people questioned him, you will go to hell. Then he said, let one person go to hell, all these other people, they will go to Vaikuntha. So that is what he said. So like that, all the realized gurus, they were aware about how to interpret the text. So that is what we have to see. So this Nilakanta Vyakhya, again we will see in very great detail when we go to the 18th chapter. I have fairly explained in some detail, because this is something which is needed. It is not as though I am talking from the point of view of a reformer. Certainly I am not. But I am also aware that some people will be really feeling bad. They will really feel bad that a very, very cherished idea about our own personality, a very, very cherished idea about our own structure and our own caste structure and our own supremacy is being affected. It's not like that. In fact, we have to see, sitting under the feet of Shankaracharya, I should only say what is there in the text, and then I should not go beyond the text. So we have to see this entire thing in the context of social change. Then 1 or 2 points which I wanted to mention. Say this, for example, the Shudra. This concept of Shudra, why the Shudra was not allowed to read Vedas? Because any society needs somebody for certain physical work. Any society. If you see the whole world history, if you see the Greek society again, Greek society right from 6th century, if you see, each person was entitled to have some 10 to 20 slaves. So where did the slaves come from? They physically abducted people from various neighboring places and then put them as slaves. Whoever is a weakling, he was put as a slave and then he was made to do work. So that is what existed in Greek society. Roman society, there was slavery. In fact, if you read world history, Roman society, there was slavery. Even at the time when the Christianity emerged, slavery was very much existent. And then Christianity became popular only because of slavery, because all these slaves, they got attracted to the new religion, whereas the Roman, these Roman rulers and that ruling class, they were having their own religion. They were having so many gods and they were having their own ideas. Like we have, our own mythology and whatnot, they also had their own mythology. So, but all this Roman society, the point is, Roman society, there was a lot of slavery. And then history shows that even the Western society, the entire Western society, there was slavery till about 18th century. Till this Abraham Lincoln came and he fought against slavery. We all know how people from Africa, they were physically abducted, put them in ships. They were all put in ships and then they were all carried to Europe and England and America and all these places. And then they were put into slavery. They were actually put in chains. Even during Greek history, if you see, the Greek slaves, they were put in chains. Their legs were chained. So in India, it did not happen. There was no slavery. A Brahmin, simply he wore one wet dhoti and then he isolated himself and then he considered himself sacred. He was only wearing some wet dhoti. He was living in great poverty, dire poverty. He was not having any slaves. So this is again we have to see. We have to see that when somebody points out that you are all castes and then you are all in this thing, we should also realize that we have not committed such great social sins which other societies have committed. We have to be proud, really proud that we have not committed such very great sins. So slavery again was there till 18th century and then it was also defended in a sense. It was also defended according to their own theories, that so and so's son was condemned to be slain. Their whole children were condemned to be slaves in their own religious texts. There are certain stories where a person called Ham, he was cursed by his father that his entire offspring, all the children and their children, etc., they will be perpetually slaves. So they were all condemned to slavery. So they justified slavery, saying that all these blacks who were physically taken out from these African countries and then carried there, they were all the children of Ham. So it is now our pious responsibility to see that they come back. So that is how they justified. And in fact, some of the black leaders themselves, some of the black writers, they were also they were convinced about that. They were also convinced about that story, and then they were saying, yes, we have to come out of this misery, we have to come out of this slavery. So they were writing like that. So till some people, really enlightened people, they fought for them. So this was the type of society in olden days. If you see the Chinese society had this system. Japanese society, they also had these castes. So this is what this historically. If we just see any society, so any human society requires somebody to do some menial work. So this is what happened in Indian society also. So we should not feel, terribly bad, but it is time for us to rectify. It is time for us to rectify, and if we don't rectify, the society will break. The society will not, stay together. They will say, you practice your own dharma, we will go to some other dharma. So this is what happens. The society requires a menial, all the menials. In fact, I was seeing one film called, The History of the World by Mel Brooks. If possible, you please see a film called History of the World by Mel Brooks. So there is a 16th, 17th century or 18th century habit where the Europeans, they were all there in a party. One fellow will be carrying a bucket. So for them, if they want to urinate, this fellow goes near them and then that man urinates into that and then naturally rejoins the party. He just comes aside and then he urinates into that bucket and then rejoins the party. So these are some peculiar, strange habits in history which that man has portrayed. Certain strange things in history he has made into a film. That he is basically a comedian. He has made a beautiful film out of it. In fact, if you go to London, they will show that, so there are some palaces for the kings. So they used to vacate palaces for about 6 months because this problem of human waste. It is a question of treating the human waste. So all this human waste which was collected, and it had to be cleared by menials for over a period of time, and then they used to shift to another palace for some time, and then again when this building became clean, they could come back. So this is what was happening, because this is a question of physically removing this waste and carrying things like that. So these are all certain peculiarities in history which we have to realize, and then we should be proud that there was no slavery in our country. We have to very proudly say that there was nothing like that. This fellow simply, he hid himself in a corner, he tied a dhoti, a wet dhoti, and then considered to be like that. But having said all this, then we have to see that all this thing at least has to be understood in the proper sense. It is left for us to see whether we want to understand it in the Vedic context, in the Vedic sense of the word, or in the medieval sense of the word. The Vedic sense of the word is very, very liberal. The Vedic type of understanding is very, very liberal. The Vedic understanding is that even Mahabharata times, Mahabharata very clearly says it is the guna, it is the this sattva, rajas, tamo gunas which are going to decide the character, the varna of a person. Whereas a medieval interpretation and subsequent interpretation may be for various reasons, because we were also under foreign rule for the last 1000 years. So that is the problem. We don't know what happened in history, and then at least now, so we have to see that it is left for us whether to go back to that original sense of Mahabharata times, or whether we have to stick to the medieval times and suffer all what we are suffering. So let us see this bhashyam again. Maya Ishwarena Sustam Utpadidam Brahmanasya Mukhamasit Ityadi Shrutehe Guna Karma Vibhagashaha Guna Vibhagashaha Karma Vibhagasascha Gunaha Sattva Rajas Tamamsi. Okay, he says Guna Karma Vibhagashaha. The interpretation is Guna Vibhagashaha, Karma Vibhagasascha. First you identify the Guna and then Karma Vibhaga. Identify the Guna and then identify the Karma. Karma Vibhagashaha. Gunaha Sattva Rajaha Tamamsi. Sattva Rajas Tamamsi. These three are the Gunas. Then Tatra Satvikasya Sattva Pradhanasya Brahmanasya Shamo Damas Tapaiti Ityadini Karmani Sattvopasarjana Rajah Pradhanasya Kshatriyasya Shaurya Tejah Prabhrutini Karmani. Okay, we'll stop here. Tatra, so in that situation, Satvikasya Sattva Pradhanasya Brahmanasya. So Sattva Pradhana. So we know that all these three gunas which are invariably there in everybody. There may be dominance of one guna, but then other gunas are not totally absent. It is not 100% sattva. Brahmana does not mean 100% sattva. Brahmana is sattva pradhana. That pradhana, that is dominating guna is sattva. Then there are other gunas, rajo guna, tamo guna, they are also there in him. Satvikasya sattva pradhanasya brahmanasya. Shankaracharya is describing different, which is dominant in whom. Then for him, shamaha, damaha, tapaha ityadini karmani. For such a person who is a sattvika, then shamaha, damaha, tapaha. Shama, dama, tapa, we know the meanings. Shama is antarindriya nigraha, shamaha. Antarindriya nigraha is restraining the antahkarana. It is not only restraining the bahyendriyas, that is external organs. It is necessary to restrain the internal organs, that is the mind one has to regulate. Then dama is bahyendriya nigraha damaha. Bahyendriya nigraha, your mind is still wandering, but then you are physically restraining due to fear of police or something like that. So that is what is dama. Shama is irrespective of police, whether police is there or not, you are self-restrained. You know you are an enlightened person, and then your mind does not wander. Shamaha, damaha. Tapaha is thinking, and also thinking about the truth. Not thinking about anything else, thinking about the truth, thinking about reality. So that is what is tapa. ityadini karmani. So these are the people who are supposed to be the enlightened people who are supposed to guide the society. Then sattva upasarjana rajah pradhanasya. Sattva upasarjana is, that becomes subordinate. Upasarjanam is something which is subordinate or secondary. Sattva becomes a secondary. Sattva comes into the second place. Then rajas is in the primary place. Rajas is that achieving tendency, domineering tendency. Rajah pradhanasya kshatriyasya shaurya teja prabhrutini karmani. Shaurya is what? Valor. Tejas again is something ferocity. Shaurya is valor. And tejaha actually means fire. Tejas, we know, Tejas is fire. Fire and also light. So Teja Prabhuti means here fire means ferocity. That valor and ferocity, they are the things which are prescribed for a Kshatriya. They are earmarked, they are the qualities of a Kshatriya. Then Tama Upasarjana Rajah Pradhanasya Vaishyasya Krishyadini Karmani. So this, for the other category, that is Vaishya, for him also Raja is in the top. For Kshatriya also Raja is in the top, but second place is by Sattva, third place is by Tamoguna. For this Vaishya, Rajas is in the higher place, that is achieving and then acquisition and whatnot. Then Tamah Pradhanasya, some other things, Tamas, some little bit of say lack of initiative, let us say, some dull tendencies. So this is one thing. Then again Sattva is in the third place. Sattva is in the third place. Tama upasarjana sattva rajah pradhanasya vaishyasya krishyadini. Krushi is, what is Krushi? Krushi is cultivation. Krushi does not mean effort. In Telugu we use the word wrongly. Krushi means effort in Telugu. But in Sanskrit, Krushi means agriculture. Krushi Goraksha Vanijyam Vaishya Karma Swabhavajam. Krushi Goraksha is cattle rearing, and then Vanijyam, all types of trade. So they are the karmas for the Vaishya. Then Raja Upasarjana Tamah Pradhanasya Shudrasya Shushrusaiva Karma. Raja Upasarjana Tamah Pradhanasya. So this man, this Tama, basically the dullness and character, lack of initiative. So this is the type of kind of thing. Then Raja Upasarjana. This Rajoguna is secondary. And then Sattva is in the third stage. So this seems to be the distinction in olden days. In fact, this is what Nilakantha Chaturdhara also says the same manner. Madhusudana Saraswati also writes in the same manner. Madhusudana Saraswati also writes almost in the same words. Madhusudana Saraswati also writes. So this seems to be the 3 minutes. Okay. This seems to be the considered view of all ancient commentators. So this we have to take it as it is, because this categorization, they are also saying it is according to Guna Vibhaga. And then according to Guna Vibhaga, this Karma Vibhaga was also done. These gunas are like this which is dominating and which is secondary and which is in the third place. So that is what we have seen. Tama upasarjana rajah pradhanasya vaidyasya krishyadini karmani. Raja upasarjana, Raja becomes the secondary, and Tamah pradhanasya, Tamo guna is in the domineering position. Tasya shudrasya Shushrusha means listening to other people, obeying orders of other people. Shushrusha is obeying orders of other people, listening. And then actually Shushrusha literally means Shrotum Ichha Shushrusha, that is desire to listen. So the Shushrusha is the Shushrusha, the Rudhyartha meaning is, the established meaning is, that is to do service. All the people who are in the service sector, let us say, the people who are in the service sector, who do not have any initiative and then who slog in, say, in some type of office. So this is what is called Shudra in the present day context. So those who do not, have any sort of initiative of their own, something like that. Raja Upasarjana Tamah Pradhanasya Shudrasya. And I was also saying why this sort of menial work was very much required. Even today, you go to any society, you go to a 5-star hotel, what happens? 5-star hotel, whether it is in India or in London or any other place, there is a fellow who waits on you. There is a waiter who gets your, he may be dressed in neat, impeccable white, but then what he is doing is service only. So this Shushrusha, that is taking orders from somebody, taking orders from you, that is one Shudra karma. Then Karmaiva. Ityevam Guna karma vibhagashaha
गुणकर्म विभागशः
चातुर्वर्ण्यं
चातुर्वर्ण्यं
मया सृष्टम्
मया सृष्टम्
इत्यर्थः
इत्यर्थः
तच्च इदं then let us complete this line ityevam in this manner guna karma vibhagashah by virtue of dividing this guna and by virtue of dividing this karma this chaturvarnyam this combination of these four varnas it has been created by me. So I think time is over. I think we will okay, tacha idam chaturvarnyam, then this goes to a next say question that we will take up in the next class. So what we have to see is whether we have to stick to the original version of the basic question, which basic point which I wanted to point out here is whether we have to stick to that, whether we have to revive that old meaning which is there in Mahabharata, or whether we have to go to the medieval meaning and then have problems in society, because we have to see the social change. We have to see the social change, how other countries are responding, how the whole world is responding. Today, if you see, the latest question is about who will be the next pope. The next pope, they are considering some black man to be the next pope, some black man from Africa. So the whole society, their own society, is undergoing a sort of churning. Recently, in fact, I also saw one book called The Suicide of a Superpower. The Suicide of a Superpower, if you see that, it is written by some Republican leader, some Republican leader. They are under great anxiety. They are under great anxiety that their numbers are dwindling in Europe. Because in the whole of Europe, the rate of growth of population is rather low. There are some places where there is a negative growth of population. So their numbers are dwindling. So there is a great need for them. On the other hand, their rivals, you know, the other religion with whom they are having a constant fight right from the time of Crusades. Right from the time of Crusades, they are having a problem. So if you see this book, Death of a Superpower, he of course criticizes various policies of the American government, all these immigration policies and how the society is not being integrated. In fact, if I were to be in America, I would feel like that man only. So there is nothing wrong. So their concern is to increase their numbers. Their concern is to see that their numbers, that is their religion, the Christianity, the numbers increase. Otherwise, they can't face the other religion. So that is why we are becoming victims. A place like India, where we are already having these internal problems like this, we are becoming the victims. They can easily see and then come to us and then say you have been suppressed, and then how you have been suppressed by all these forward castes and like that. So ultimately, our culture, which is coming down for the last so many thousands of years, this is becoming the victim because we are not realizing what is the danger. So it is for us to see whether we have to understand the social change or not, and then whether we are supposed to think about what we have to do, from the point of view of social cohesion. So we'll see in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.